So this brings us, if I haven't said this in the previous video, this brings us to spring quarter of my freshman year at UCLA. Pardon me, my voice is a little gone. But I want to say week 7. So when you're on the quarter system, when instead of 2 semesters, it's 3 to 4 quarters, depending on the optional summer quarter. You count, and you do the same in the semesters where you count the weeks. I think there's 16 weeks, but there's 10 weeks in a quarter. Things move very quickly, and I believe it was week 7 of spring quarter is always the week that's designated for student elections. And elections are a big deal at UCLA. During my time there, because like with the national elections, the things kind of swing in either direction depending on the year. But when I was there, there was the incredibly powerful, incredibly well-funded Bruins United. And I'm not going to mince words. I'm going to say things exactly as they are. But Bruins United was the fraternities and the sororities, was all of the Jewish groups. And actually, I should take a moment and take that back. Not specifically Jewish groups, but specifically Zionist groups. So I think Hillel is the name of the really big one, but those two groups at UCLA were very closely tied. The Zionist groups and the White Booster Societies. Those were very, very tightly knit. So those two groups made up the bulk of what was called Bruins United, BU, and honestly, that's all they needed, because the other slate, which they went by various names, sometimes they didn't, like that year, my freshman year, they didn't have enough candidates to run an entire slate. I think they only ran 2 for representative seats. And again, I'm not going to get into, of course, there's president, vice president, internal vice president, external vice president. There's, again, a whole different, I want to say 15 to 20 different seats that go up for election, that go up every spring quarter, right? It's very, very contentious. It's incredibly, again, Bruins United is more conservative. They're incredibly well funded. They come out with the merch and the t-shirts. They pay their people to flyer and to pamphlet for them, which is unheard of. Like, nobody has the resources to do that. Are you kidding me? In college, like, it's really not that serious, except it is, because that's how they maintain their control. I also know, I have it on personal firsthand account, that Bruins United would do really sketchy, nasty, slimy things like go to fraternities and sororities, whip out a laptop and get all the votes at once, which that was not allowed. That's incredibly illegal. And not in this video, but in the next election cycle, so 1 year from this point, that's the one that gets incredibly, incredibly dramatic. And I'll explain more in detail when the time comes. This is more just to kind of lay the foundation. But things picked up a lot spring quarter of my freshman year. So in a nutshell, again, elections, which I've just touched on and I'm going to get more to later on in the series. But there was elections, which the whole campus, you could just, if you were involved in any way, there were people that, of course, were not involved, but it was like you could cut the tension with a knife during that entire week. And honestly, it's not too different from the 2 corporate parties, right? Blue and red that we have in the United States. So anyway, elections. This was my freshman year. So the next year, what would be my sophomore year, my second year, I was planning to live off campus. So we had already picked out our apartment. It was going to be myself and 2 friends. We're going to rent an apartment together, planning to rent an apartment off campus 3 blocks away. Super, super excited to do that, right? Because it was myself, Jane, who again was my best friend at the time, and her other friend, we're gonna call her Maggie, and that was who was planning to live together. We will get to that because there's actually quite a bit that comes before that. But that was our plan. I was really excited to live in, this was for all intents and purposes, right, other than dorms, my first apartment. So our first apartment. Super excited to live on our own, right? Adulting, right? I want to say it was week 8. So either week 8, if not week 8, then it was week 9. It was one of those two, like right before finals week, but it wasn't quite finals week. So right when not quite what they call dead week, but what they call dead week, which is, finals week, right? But right before, so still lots of, just because it's the end of the quarter, right? People are graduating, stressful time on a college campus, right? So I was on the opposite side of UCLA. I've explained before, UCLA in a nutshell, there's like the Hill, which is what they call the residential part of campus, and then the rest of campus, which is the academic part. And so and it's not a very big campus, but I was all the way on this side and then opposite from the residential side, and I was studying for finals. And I will never ever forget that I got a text from Jane. And Jane said that she was going to be going home. Actually in the next few hours. And she wanted a chance to say goodbye. And something, I guess, came up. And she didn't, of course, it was a text. She didn't really explain. Something told me in my gut that there was something else that was going on. And so immediately I packed up my things and went over to go see her. Just in full disclosure, I tend to just freak out and my mind starts to race about different things. And I don't know why this was the thought, but I'm just going to be completely honest. There's no basis to this, but I knew that her father made a lot of money. She said to herself, her father made more money than most anesthesiologists would make. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh my God, did they find he was doing something illegal and her father's like going to prison? I don't know why that's where my mind went. And please, it's absolutely false. There's no truth to that whatsoever. So I'm only saying that kind of full disclosure, full honesty. So I get to Hedrick Hall. I forget if you had to past a certain hour, you have to tag and they have to let you in the elevator, right? Because again, the dorms are very secure. So I honestly don't remember if it was they recognized me because they knew that she was my best friend, or if I was able to get up to her floor. But I do remember getting or maybe I even followed somebody in, because you can do that if you're a student, right? So I do remember getting up to her floor, and then she was all the way at the end of the hallway. And I opened I knocked on the door. I think it might have even already been open because she was packing. And I just remember seeing her, we met eyes, and she had obviously been crying. And that's when she told me that her oldest sister had died.